Hey, it's me, Ifeoma, and today I want to talk about depression and how it affects Black women differently. And before I get started, I just want you to know that I have the Ask Nurse Ifeoma membership, and the link is in the description box. Join the sisterhood if you feel alone, if you're going spiritual awakening, if you just feel like you hit rock bottom in your life, or you're just going through some personal issues and you haven't found someone that can relate, that you feel comfortable sharing what's going on emotionally with you, I recommend that you check out the Ask Nurse Ifeoma membership. As a VIP membership, you pay a one-time fee for the whole year, and you get affordable emotional support in your spiritual awakening process, as well as spiritual issues that Black women like us go through. And I want to create a service to support women a few years ago. So how does depression affect Black women differently? One, mental health in the Black community isn't really talked about, and it's kind of maxed. For me, I go through times where I have emotional situation. I'm very careful not to term it as depression, because I feel it kind of demonizes a spiritual healer. I'm going to go through some stuff, so I have the experience to help other people. So I don't really look at depression. I look at it as more of the dark, the shadow side areas in my life that I need to heal. But when it comes to depression, when it comes to Black women, a lot of us are high functioning people that are depressed. And when I say high functioning, means even though you want to stay inside your house, you want to crawl up in your bed, and you just want to sleep, you don't want to do anything, you have grown up responsibilities, and you find the discipline to do what you have to do. And that doesn't mean you're not depressed. It just means you are a high functioning depression. And depression is a huge spectrum. You have very major depression, where you're basically debilitated to doing anything, to having any sense of uh, intention, motivation to do anything. And then you have the other spectrum, where you deal with this kind of malaise in life, and you almost feel like it's your normal. And with Black women, what's interesting with us when it comes to depression that no one talks about, it affects our love life, it affects who we choose as our partners, it affects how we show up at work, it affects our diet. And not only that, Black women, we don't really have an environment where we can be fragile, vulnerable, and say things aren't going right with us, or things aren't feeling good. For me personally, I've been diagnosed with depression at a young age, like when I was in junior high. And because I come from Nigerian parents, they don't really acknowledge mental health issues, but both of my parents have their own, my father particularly have experience with mental health issues in my family. And back in like the 90s and early 2000s, it's not, Black mental health, talking about it, is still a huge areas of improvement needed. But back then it wasn't really talked about, and medication wasn't an option for me when I was younger. And so I've always just dealt with this kind of sadness from a young age. And not all my life I was sad, but there's always some sadness. I grew up in, my parents were divorced, but during my parents' divorce, before they got divorced, it was a lot of chaotic nonsense that children shouldn't have to see. So sometimes I think about it like, was I really depressed, or was I just going through some traumatic things in my childhood, and that was my way of coping? But as Black people, we're not really given the tools to express our emotions. And I feel that's why I have a soft spot when I went into nursing. I would had a soft spot for people with behavioral health issues because I can identify it, but most people wouldn't look at me as having a behavioral health issue because I'm so composed and all that. But there's different levels of people who have mental health issues. There's people who are high functioning, which is, I consider myself high functioning. I can get my stuff together and still deal with this type of illness. And when I think of depression, I think of it like this luggage. It's like, depending on your spectrum of depression, your luggage weight can be heavier than the next person, but you still find a way to carry the luggage with you. You're able to do your job, you're able to go where you need to go, but it's still a pain. And that's how I think of depression. But with Black women, what I find is when you don't have a place to talk it out, you don't have a therapist that you can go through consistently, you don't have a practice where you can express your emotions either through a journal entry or prayer or a consistent friend that's open-minded and generous in having a listening ear, it can cause you to bottle things up inside. And when we bottle things up inside, it can manifest into other illness. It can manifest to having an eating disorder. It can manifest in, drinking too much, being in relationships where it's not healthy because, we don't have the tools to provide ourselves security that we look for other people. And when we look for it in other people, some people use it to manipulate us. And so with me, when I'm dealing with depression or times where I'm, sad or whatever, I go inward. I don't really talk to other people because as a healer, what I realize in me having my spiritual gifts, I'm very cautious who I share my innermost challenges with. And over the years, I realized I'd rather process it on my own, using journaling, meditation, exercise versus going to friends and things, because I've had a very unique experience with friends. And it's very common for healers to just go through these periods where they isolate. And part of being depressed as a Black woman, we do tend to isolate because you just feel like no one understands. And to be honest with you, a lot of people don't understand because everyone is doing the best that they can in life. We have things we all are going through our own little journeys, and we have our own responsibilities and our own challenges. And it takes a particular type of person to have the space to just not think of what they're going through and have empathy for another person. And a lot of people in today's society don't have empathy. So I find that a lot of Black women, women in general, people in general who are dealing with depression, they feel this sense of loneliness because a lot of people say they're available for you, but when you really talk about your darkest emotions, a lot of people don't have the bandwidth to go that deep with you. A lot of people don't want to go to that level of emotional rawness. And so it can be lonely. And that's important to have these opportunities, these communities where you can talk about topics such as depression as a Black woman. And that's why I'm so passionate about my VIP membership, where I'm able to provide you great tools such as daily articles where I break it down what's going on and give you implemental strategies that you can use in your life immediately, and touch base with you on a daily basis via email so you don't feel alone. So every day you have someone that has been in your place and from time to time is going through what you're going through, and then is giving you life tools that you might have not been exposed to based off how you grew up or things like that. And so I just want you to know, if you feel alone, if you're going I want you to know there's resources for you. You don't have to suffer alone. And I recommend that you check the link in the description. I'll talk to you later. Bye.